Curious why some tennis wins seem to matter more than others? It's not just about hitting winners, it's about the points. From Grand Slams to smaller events, not all victories are created equal. In this video, we'll break down the ATP and WTA ranking systems in a simple, step-by-step way so you can watch tennis like a pro. ATP, aka the Association of Tennis Professionals, is the grand architect behind the men's tennis universe. They organize the tournaments, set the schedules, and most importantly, keep track of who's crushing it on the court. Think of them as the ultimate scorekeepers. Meanwhile, the WTA handles the same duties for the women's side of the sport. Together, these two powerhouse organizations shape the global tennis scene. Now that we understand the main governing bodies in tennis, it's time to dive into how the points and winnings system works within the ATP and WTA. Both tours follow a similar structure, with a few key differences that set them apart. When it comes to ATP rankings, it's not just about how much you play, it's about how well you play. A player's spot on the leaderboard is determined by the points they rack up in ATP-sanctioned men's singles or doubles events over a rolling 52-week period. But here's the twist. It's not a game of quantity. There's a strict limit on how many tournaments actually count. Originally, only the best 14 results were considered. That changed in 2000 when the cap moved to 18. And since 2021, the system now looks at a player's top 19 performances. So even if someone grinds through 25 tournaments in a season, only their best 19 will shape their ranking. That's why it's called a best-of system, as it rewards excellence, not endurance. It's not about playing the most matches, it's about showing up big when it matters most. For the ATP's top-tier players, rankings are built on more than just grit. They're strategically stacked from the biggest stages in tennis. Most of their points come from the 4 Grand Slams, 8 mandatory Masters 1000 events, and their 7 best finishes from everything else, like the ATP 500s, 250s, the ATP Cup, Challenger events, and even ITF tournaments. And if a player misses a slam or a Masters due to injury or simply not qualifying, no worries. They can swap in their next best result from the past 52 weeks. Flexibility with limits. Now here's the catch. Not all tournaments are created equal. Sure, you score points just by showing up, but going deep is what really matters. And the bigger the stage, the bigger the reward. Take Wimbledon, for example. A title there earns you a massive 2,000 points. Compare that to an ATP 250 event, where the champion walks away with, you guessed it, 250 points. Prestige makes a difference. That is when the ATP finals happen. Only the top 8 singles players and doubles teams qualify, and this exclusive event counts as a bonus 20th tournament. Any points here? They go straight into the ranking total. No replacements, no swaps, just pure upside. Now, rewind to August 5th, 2019, when a major shift hit the system. Earlier that year, the ATP stripped entry-level ITF events, like the M15s and M25s, of ranking points, handing out only ITF points instead. Lower-ranked players felt the squeeze. The backlash, loud and clear. The ATP reversed course, brought ATP points back to those events, and even bumped up points for challenger qualifying rounds, giving hungry players a real shot to climb the ladder. So how are those points actually handed out? Grand Slam winners bank 2,000 points, runners-up collect 1,200, and semifinals take home 720. Masters 1000 champs grab 1,000, while ATP 500 winners earn 500 points. The numbers drop with smaller events, but for players chasing a breakthrough, every match counts. Because in tennis, your next win might just be the one that launches you into the big leagues. This table clearly mentions the points players will score according to their performance in each of the tournaments. The rule is simple. The higher you finish, the more points you get. Now we know how the ATP point system works. Let's take a look at how WTA awards points to its players. In women's tennis, the WTA rankings follow a similar rhythm to the ATP, which is rolling over a 52-week window where only your best results count. But here's where it gets interesting. While the ATP tallies up to 19 singles tournaments, the WTA keeps it tighter with just 16 for singles and 11 for doubles. That smaller number gives players more breathing room to plan their seasons while still spotlighting those who perform consistently. Still, some tournaments are non-negotiable. The 4 Grand Slams and 4 mandatory WTA 1000 events are locked into every player's ranking breakdown, no matter what. It's the tour's way of ensuring that the biggest stars show up for the biggest stages. Don't panic, because you can slide in another result from a WTA 500, 250, or even a high-level ITF event to fill the gap. It's a lifeline that keeps the ranking chase alive, even if a major goes missing. Now, qualifying for the WTA finals? That's a whole different ballgame. Instead of using the standard rankings, the tour resets everything each January and launches the race to the WTA finals, so a fresh leaderboard is based only on results from the current season. That means a strong breakout year, even without a high overall ranking, can earn a ticket to the season's biggest showdown. Just like the men's tour, the WTA finals count as a bonus tournament, tacked on as a 17th event for singles rankings. And with big points on the line, it's the ultimate last chance power-up to end the year on a high note. When it comes to Grand Slams, the point distribution is equal across the board. Win one and you take home 2,000 points. But the WTA 1000s work a bit differently. While ATP Masters 1000 events always hand the winner 1,000 points, the WTA splits its 1000s into mandatory and non-mandatory events. The mandatory ones stay true to the name with a full 1,000 points, but non-mandatory tournaments, they usually cap out at around 900 or less. So not all 1000s are created equal, but they all matter when the race is this close. The complete points that are allocated to players can be seen in this table. Now that we understand how the ATP point system works, let's dive into how the WTA awards points to its players. Every Monday morning, something important happens in the world of professional tennis. It's not a match or a trophy ceremony, it's the release of the latest ATP and WTA rankings. These rankings determine where a player plays, whether they get a direct entry or need to qualify, and how they're seeded in a draw. But how do these rankings actually work? Where do they come from? And why do they matter so much? To understand how today's ranking system came to life, we've got to rewind the clock. Long before algorithms and weekly updates, tennis rankings were more about politics than performance. Entry into tournaments? Based on reputation. Seeding? Left to the judgment of tournament organizers. As tennis evolved into a truly global professional sport, that old system just didn't cut it anymore. The game needed something objective. Enter the ATP rankings. The ATP dropped its first official men's singles rankings on August 23, 1973, bringing order to the chaos. Doubles got their own ranking systems a bit later, on March 1, 1976. But the early days were far from what we know now. In 1973, there were only 7 updates the entire year. That slowly ramped up to 11 in 1974, 13 in 1975, and by 1979, the ATP was pumping out 43 editions annually. Finally, in March 1990, the weekly ranking format we know today became standard, with only a few rare exceptions since. Then came the twist. In 2000, the ATP added a second system, which is the ATP Champions Race. It was simple in theory. Every player started the season with 0 points, and whoever earned the most by year's end was crowned year-end number 1. Sounds clean, right? But having 2 ranking systems running side by side, one traditional and one reset every January, left fans and players scratching their heads. So by 2009, the Champions Race for singles was dropped. Interestingly, the race format still lives on in doubles, where partner swaps are frequent, and a season-based system makes more sense. Over on the women's side, the WTA rankings launched on November 3, 1975, with a similar mission: fairness and transparency for tournament entries. The system mirrors the ATP in many ways, but adds its own twist. The biggest? Qualification for the season-ending WTA Finals doesn't come from the regular season. It comes from the race to the WTA Finals, a clean slate leaderboard that resets every January and tracks performance only during the current season. So even if you're not in the overall top 8, a killer year could still punch your ticket to the year-end showdown. And just getting into the rankings? That takes work too. A WTA player must either earn points in at least 3 tournaments or collect 10 ranking points in singles or doubles. So while the ATP and WTA rankings are both based on rewarding results, the details and rules are a bit different for each tour. So that is it for today's video. If you like this video, do check out our previous video on grass court tennis. And before you forget, like the video and subscribe to the channel for more amazing tennis content. As per usual, we will be back with more fiery forehands, backhands that don't come back, and those unmissable moments in the ATP and WTA.